All right, good afternoon. This is the Policy Review Committee meeting for April the 3rd. Present is Bucky Scott. Steve
Rittenhouse.
Kristen Thompson.
Rob Early. Brett Cooper.
Okay, so we're going to start off with Policy 121, field trips and excursions. Yes.
Okay, we are bringing this one up because the administration would like some guidance from the board in regards to which direction you want to go. Because currently, if you take a look, what I put in front of you is our current administrative guideline. Administrative guidelines are interpretations of school board policy done by administration. We have tons and tons of these out there. And this has recently come up because of a change in practice, and I think it might be worth putting it into policy, depending on what you guys want us to do. If you go down to, if you take a look at the administrative guidelines, previous boards have gone, if you look at number 4, field trips have been at no cost to the school district. We would like, for budgetary purposes and our administration, so we can tell our principals what they're supposed to do here. We would like guidance from the board, whether or not you want us to charge for field trips or not. Obviously, the parents would prefer that we not charge. I'm sure the taxpayers would prefer that we do charge. So we're going to need some guidance from the board. I would recommend that regardless of that, we move number 4 to a policy, actual school board policy that's a little more front and center, so everyone's aware of what the policy itself is. So I'd like to hear your thoughts as a policy committee, where you'd like to go with this. Administration is certainly flexible. We can see both sides to this. But that is our past practice until very recently. And then our current practice obviously got brought up, and it's something we went back to when we were looking at budgetary issues for the district.
So how do they pay for field trips?
Students pay for field trips, and I do know PTC occasionally chipped in, especially the younger grades, to pay for them, and students would pay for them at generally your older grades, so that's how it was done in those cases.
So if you're low income, does the school help out?
We have a list of those, and the school generally helped. The school did absolutely help out. That absolutely should be the case, because those schools should be deprived of an educational opportunity as a result of the parents' income. So absolutely. And we would continue that practice of doing that to the child could afford. We do know who the socially, economically disadvantaged students are in our school district who are free to reduce lunch lists.
Oh, okay, yeah. So are you just looking to eliminate that?
What I'm looking for, if we are going to do it, if we are going to have the parents pay for it, we should put it in the policy. If we aren't, I think we should put it in the policy and move number 4 from the administrative guidelines to school board policy. That way there's no confusion among anyone to what our current practice is and what they should be doing in regards to that.
I don't have a problem asking parents to pay. Like, I don't have a problem paying whatever, $10 or whatever it costs to send my kids on a
I think it's more than $10.
How much have they been?
I don't know. I'm just kidding. Imagine it's more than 10. I was kidding.
$8 or something, or?
We're usually pretty good about choosing field trips. I mean,
I didn't.
children.
My wife has that, so I
wouldn't
didn't.
overwhelm the families with costs.
Yeah, because usually the transportation gets paid for. It's usually 10, maybe tops 15.
The transportation takes care of that, you said? Their portion.
Usually
PTC
the
helps.
PTC pays for transportation.
Okay. I agree with you. I have no problem with parents continuing.
Yeah, as long as no kid is turned away because they can't afford to.
Right, and you have that. You have a lunch list or whatever you have.
We absolutely know.
Yeah, and I'm sure if somebody had a problem, hopefully they would say
And
something.
if someone had a hardship and they didn't apply for free and reduced lunch, they contact us. That's where we have discretion as administrators to say, okay,
Well, that's-
just
yeah.
lost the job.
So that would only be a few
Yeah.
people.
So as long as they don't eliminate field trips, I don't have a problem.
Yep. I think field trips
Oh, yeah.
with
So
parents.
my suggestion would be just to codify that in so that it's front and center for transparency reasons because people look at board policies, administrative guidelines are not as public. These are, I shared them with you so that you could see what was out there previously. So what I would suggest is you actually put that into the policy itself with the caveat, as Kristen just said, students who cannot afford the district would then pick up the fees for the students.
How do we put that out there? Like, I'm just putting that out there, but let's just say somebody's having a financial problem. Is there anything in the wording when it comes to field trips that if you're having I'm just asking, like if you're having a problem.
Especially because they might not be getting free lunch, but they might just be going through a hard time.
Yeah, and what we can do is we can include, and we can even put that in the policy if you want to, we'll include on field trip notices that if you're experiencing a financial difficulty, please contact
Yeah, or a
us.
hardship or something. Maybe hardship.
Worse than that in a nice way.
I kind of agree with that because I think if I was a parent, I'm going through a tough time. You don't want to. That's a tough call to make, especially if you're talking. I'm saying respectfully, but $8 or $10, $15. I would think that'd be a
When
tough.
you have multiple kids, you're like 6 kids.
Oh no, I'm not even. I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It adds up.
Yeah, it really does. Get a TV. That's all I can say. All right. Yeah, can we add that to the policy?
And add that to what I would do is just add a line to the policy. Under, if you look at, not to confuse language, under policy 121,
Yeah.
the way it's currently done, if you look under the bold-faced part where it says guidelines, I would just add the number 8 in there, Bucky. That's on page 2.
Where it says field trips and excursions are governed.
I will go down below that, below authority, below,
And write number 8.
and I'll go down and put number 8.
Okay. And then just say if you're experiencing a hardship or a financial hardship or
I would say first field trip should be at no cost to the school district,
field. Okay.
unless a family, and we might tweak the wording and tag it, guys, but unless the family is experiencing economic hardship.
Should that be number 9? Or that's part of 8?
Either way, you can split that or you can put it together. I'd split it for clarity's sake.
I think I'd split it, yeah.
Yeah, for clarity.
So make it number 9?
8, no cost to the district, and then 9,
If a family,
experience financial hardships.
If a family, all right, somebody can tweak this, right?
yeah, we'll work.
All right, if a
And
family
do you
is,
just approve anybody that contacts their...
Well, I think common sense will prevail, and honestly, that's,
Yeah.
that's the principle to take care of each other.
Oh, okay.
yeah, and this at
We
least,
just want to expressly give them the authority to do that in the policy itself.
if a family is experiencing financial hardship, what? We're just going to say
The administration
can make that,
has the discretion, something like that,
yeah, okay.
to waive fees
Yeah.
for individual students. And I think the thought process here now is crystal clear, and it provides clarity, for everyone involved and also our team.
Okay,
Make sense?
yeah, all right. Is that just put first reading on that?
Yeah, I would move that to first reading.
Where are they urged to schedule field trips at times other than the last one? I feel like that's only the field trips, right?
What's that?
It says they're urged to schedule field trips at times other than the
What,
last
what ends up happening from a practice standpoint, and unfortunately, this is a constant, I won't say battle, it's a constant thing. People want to schedule towards the end of the school year, but the problem that we run into is it creates issues for substitute teachers and substitute nurses, because a lot of school districts want to do that at the same time. We can share subs, we share heads, so it creates that.
I think my son's like field trip is like
We try, and that's the weekend everyone tries to go for first. It's actually right before that holiday there. So we encourage people to look elsewhere.
I would
And
think
actually, what you want to do, best practice is
I would think other school districts would be all trying to do it at the end of the year too.
Yeah. Well, everybody's in the same.
Everyone's, yeah.
You're competing for everyone.
Or something like that, and you're going down there, you really want to have a field trip close to when you're discussing that with the kids, and when that's best practice, not just around the holidays per se. So we're trying to encourage that also. The field trip should be kind of effective.
Do you want us to turn back in the administrator?
You don't have to, just.
It's not like a secret. Okay, all right. I can share with my neighbor. Read this. All right, we're going to go to the policy 251. Students experiencing homelessness. Sure.
Sorry, there, I'm shuffling papers. This is one that we didn't get to last time, and this is homelessness, foster care, and dealing with issues of educational instability. That's federal law, and it ties into McKinney-Vento. This policy is basically updating it to make it current with what is required and most recent interpretations of the law itself. There are some, and you'll see the updates that we combine them. The other thing is PASMO recommended that we combine the two policies together. We did have them foster care and homelessness separate policies. In essence, we're doing the same types of things for the most part with homeless students and students experiencing foster care. For the board, when we talk about homeless, a lot of people think of it as just people living under a bridge. That is not the case. That's not McKinney-Vento, for example, what is common, and someone gets evicted from an apartment and they're doubled up with grandma who lives in Exeter. Okay, now what that does require is it requires school districts to provide continuity of education for the students. The purpose behind that law is it was actually passed back when the Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans, and those kids were moving from place so they didn't have to go, and they decided it would be good for the whole country. You know, the kids who are transient are moving from place to place to place and having to change school districts all the time. What this does is it requires school districts to give them the opportunity to continue school in the district where they started the school year. So educationally it makes sense. I will say it is a massive unfunded mandate from the government. It is quite expensive to do this. And Dr. Cooper shaking his head because he knows what we have to spend a year on this. Because when you get into transportation costs,
right.
for transporting one student from Exeter to come to Daniel Boone or
And it could just be one, right?
one can be one that.
Yeah.
It usually is, or a kid for the Park Inland Valley, or that gets quite expensive for schools, and it's a federal mandate, so we have to do it. Nonetheless, it's there, and so what this does, we have no control over that. We've combined the policies together, and if you could, there are a couple of check boxes, Bucky, that we need to fill in on this too. I can kind of guide you through them if you want.
Sure.
Starting, I think you're on page 3 under delegation of responsibility.
Okay. Well,
You can check under delegation of responsibility, check assistant superintendent.
okay.
If you turn the page, let me see, you gotta go way deeper into the document itself. And I know this will take you a couple minutes to find. Under dispute resolution for homeless students,
In foster care?
it's back about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looks like page 7. There's a bunch of check boxes with parentheses.
Right, it says students discharged from foster care.
Yes.
Right,
dispute
okay.
resolution for students.
Do I check that, or,
You need to check where it says semester
okay,
and check without payment of tuition. I think that's reasonable and consistent with our current practice.
Do I need to check the thing, the headline, or I guess we're...
Yeah, check the headline. Also, sorry.
No, it's all right.
I missed that.
Is that typically what you see?
Yeah, that's typically what we do.
How many?
We let them finish it up. If they're discharged from foster care, we let them finish the semester.
Does that, I'm just asking, but does that carry into the new year? Like, say,
No,
Bobby moves now, but,
Oh, you mean homeless or foster care?
So he would just finish.
we're responsible just to finish the year?
So if he was put back into his home.
If you're talking about foster care.
If he gets stuck in Exeter and we had to give him transportation, I don't know which case,
If his child is still.
just ask him,
If you're talking about a homeless situation,
probably.
yes.
It could go on.
Yes, they can
Okay.
go on and they can and do. If they're still, it's called doubled up. If a student's still doubled up with, let's say, grandma, and they still have it. As soon as they establish permanent housing, then like get a lease or buy a house or something to that effect, then the homeless ends at the end of that school year.
So students discharged from foster care, that's if they're done with foster care.
Foster care is a tad different.
And they're placed back in there.
Yes, and so we'll do semester, and then we'll let them finish that out without paying tuition. If they stay longer than that, we have to pay tuition.
Okay.
If they're discharged from foster care. Foster care is a tad different.
Okay.
And I believe that's it. Those are the only revisions.
All right.
Other than the bold-faced ones, which are standard text.
I'm just curious, are you seeing more homeless students since the pandemic?
Yes, we saw an uptick. Definitely saw an uptick. I mean, we were at about, say, 10 per year or so, and we pretty much doubled that easily right now. So we're already.
Is it coming down now a little bit, or not
We're
necessarily?
still pretty high.
You can't find
Sure.
anywhere to live right now. Like,
No,
thank God I own a house, but like,
well, that's it. To rent a house right now,
There's nothing.
or anything, you can't even find, and they're so expensive.
it's crazy.
And we're getting a little feedback like that too from families, and obviously we have our social worker working with the families who have been displaced, and we're getting that kind of feedback also, like having trouble finding something within the district, because we're
Yeah.
trying to get the kids back into the school district itself, and they're having, finding that in Daniel Village is that a challenge for some of our families.
Yeah, there's waitlist.
Well, we got 2 Dunkin' Donuts now, so we're popular.
All
No,
of Douglas.
2 Dunkin' Donuts. Don't know why. All right. Okay. All right, we'll move on to the next policy.
Yeah, put that one over the first three, and the one we just.
I did.
Okay, sorry.
No, never mind.
Okay, the next one is identification cards. This is timely for a variety of reasons, which I won't go into here. As policy 345, we put this forward. This policy needs to be updated. There's a couple things that need to go in there, which I would recommend. And because there's so much here and so many things, I typed this out on this paper. If you see here, there's 2 different sides of it.
Yeah.
And these would be my recommendations to the changes to this policy. Right now, you can see policy 345 is pretty Spartan. I'd like to add some things here. For example, under guidelines, the last paragraph, in the event a card is lost, district security should be notified immediately, and replacement cards must be purchased by the employee at established rates. So basically, if someone loses it, we're codifying in policy, not just practice. If someone loses their security card that gets them into our buildings, they have to let our head of security know about it. We're putting it in there, that's our practice currently, and we're codifying it also so we can follow up with.
And then they have to pay for that too, huh?
Yeah, absolutely, they do. So,
And you said it gets them in the building.
yes,
So are
yes,
they,
yes, they
are
do.
they taught the importance of,
Yes.
okay.
Yep. So that's the first one, and that's right under guidelines. And that's just kind of outlining it for our current staff, and that kind of codifies something we need to have in policies so that we can follow up with employment-related issues if someone's not complying with us in regards to that. The second piece has to do with, obviously, we have been going to contracted services on a lot of things. in our school district over the years. What this does is it codifies in policy what we're expecting from our outsourced companies. You can see A deals with the issuance of cards and photo identification, makes it crystal clear in policy what's expected. That is currently written into most of our contracts, but we're putting that in there. So it talks about they have to have their clearance, they need to be submitted, and they have to have a photo identification card before they actually go into our buildings and starts. B deals with the return of access cards, and this is a pretty big issue for us, is especially when people just stop showing up to work for some of the contracted services and they disappear. Well, they're on the hook and they need to pay for those cards. They do add up over time, especially some of our services have high turnover rate, not all of them, but some of them have a high turnover rate, and that becomes problematic for the school district, and obviously that needs to be done right away. If a card is lost or stolen, again, the manager, this codifies, if you look at C, the manager of the contracted services, without delay, shall report that to our director of security by email, and obviously we charge the fee on that also. So again, we'd like that for C. For D, they will issue, this makes it periodic, and again, this is codifying what we want from them. Currently is they're issuing quarterly reports to the director of security, and that will help us out dramatically in terms of knowing who's in and out of the buildings at all times. If you can see, there's pre-employment access on here. We recommend putting this in the policy also. It deals with when someone comes on district property, they need to be checked in and out of the main office through our Raptor system. When they're interviewing these people, that needs to be codified. And at no time shall an individual hired by a contract service provider be allowed access prior to the issuance of their access card. And that's also, we would like that codified. We have some key policies we would like codified also into the policy itself. And we thought this would be the most appropriate place to put that. You can see 1 through 6 there. And an additional penalty if there's an issue with the contract service providers, should there be a problem. So I know that's a lot there, and that's why I typed it up for you. It wasn't just a few changes or multiple links put in there.
So these changes are what we're going to put into the policy?
Yeah, and I would recommend, yes, and I would recommend putting them on a separate section called contracted service providers underneath the guidelines, and then include, assuming the board doesn't have any issues with these, including A through G.
Right.
And
So,
you don't need to rewrite those, Bucky, if you're okay with those.
yeah, I'm fine. I had one dumb question maybe, but I mean, like, just say Bob Smith doesn't show up for, I don't know, cleaning services and he has the ID. Does your system allow, I guess, they can restrict that? I mean, that guy could show up 3 weeks later.
Yeah, we can and do, as long as the contracted service manager reaches out and lets us know that this guy is no longer employed.
Well, I'm just saying, what if he...
So yes, we can do it, and we do that. And I need to say this because Jeff is doing a very good job of this for us. She's cleaning some of these loose ends up for us, open IDs and stuff like that, especially with our groups that turn over a lot of employees.
Okay. All right, what do you want me to write?
Underneath guidelines, I would create a full face and underline heading, contract service providers, and then I would just make a reference C handout. And then we'll put that in there for a proposed policy for the board under first reading for the next one, if you guys are okay with that.
Yeah, fine. All right, I think I missed something before this. We had a number 1 under guidelines. Was I supposed to add something there? You kind of like jumped. Maybe I missed it.
Yes. And I have it typed out on here too at the top, so we can add that on there. If you look under where it says additional under guidelines,
Okay.
that phrase.
All right, I can write additional under and see flyer. Okay. All right.
And we'll put it all together into that the old policy.
For the next meeting?
Yeah, for the next meeting for the board to sit.
Okay. I'll just do first reading on this thing again. Okay. That concludes our meeting, Rob?
Yes.
Okay. All right, that concludes our policy review committee meeting for April 3rd. Thank you.